One of the reasons that millennials, unfortunately, are in such a rush to paint their bodies, to inject their bodies with ink, which is oftentimes not removable, is because millennials have a strange, unconscious desire to reclaim their physicality. This is why in the 1960s you had the hippies and hair. This strange. Well, why are they taking off their clothes in the middle of a musical? Why do they feel a need to do that? Because it is rather in a civilized, well-functioning society, a Christian society. People shouldn't be just taking off their clothes in the middle of a show. It doesn't make any sense, does it? And of course, at the time, it was a better time in America. They sent the cops in, and I don't know. I guess there was some kind of court case or something, but but what is that really? Like what? Did you ever stop and ask yourself why? Is it a show business gimmick, or is it more than that? And again, going back to the tattoos, there's a sense millennials have that why it's like I have to do this. Why do people join nudist colonies? Because they're we have to go back to the garden to answer that question. It's a sense of shame and in hair. I think it was an attempt to essentially revisit um, revisit the garden and try to figure out, well, why am I, why are we ashamed of all this? And so it's very reductionist. It's taking those kind of raw human elements and really just trying to make sense of them out on stage. It doesn't really provide a lot of answers. Of course, it doesn't provide any answers. It just it's basically a big well, here's this big mess that the Vietnam created, or whatever. Not Vietnam, whatever. Yeah, was it Vietnam? Anyway, shows you my sense of history. But I'm a millennial. But you see the point is that you kind of leave the audience with this big question. It's like, oh boy, okay, well, that was I just got flashed by the whole cast. Kind of like Mike Pence watching Hamilton. It's like, oh well, that was incredibly inappropriate. What just happened here? Um, but again, the answers aren't there. So we're going to provide answers with Fall. Um, we're providing answers. One of my goals in producing the quintessential American record is to examine the medium of not only the record but also the fake news, not only the phonograph record but the fake news and the various social devices, or antisocial devices more accurately, that we use on a regular basis, like the one you are watching right now if you're watching this online. And so one of the devices that we do, and now keep in mind I'm still writing this. I'd say it's more than half completed, the sketch, and we have some very talented people to kind of fully orchestrate everything. Because I wrote the book, I wrote the story, I wrote the lyrics, and I'm also writing, or I am writing, I should say. It's in the present. I am writing the book, the lyrics, and the score as well. So. One of the things that I seek to do is to provide those answers, because a lot of things they're still doing it on Broadway. There's this people don't have answers, and you have people who don't have answers writing all these dramatic works, which if you believe the lie of art for art's sake, then artis gratias art, whatever the MGM slogan is, with the lion there. It says something in Latin, and it means art for art's sake. There's a bit about it on americasmansman.com. But the point is that you have blind leading the blind. Now, most of the people who go into entertainment go into it solely to make a profit, or they'd like to make a difference in the world, and the theater is their big it's their sandbox. They develop things. They, as the folks who put together the Phantom of the Opera, one of the most successful musicals of all time, born by a man who is obsessed with cats or monkeys, what have you. Monkey, get that music box thing in the Phantom of the Opera. It's an interesting story. Andrew Lloyd Webber, again, trying to work out his childhood whatever live on stage, and I guess in the hands of a good producer can make a lot of money. And money's good, don't get me wrong, but I seek a higher calling in producing Fall, and really it's not a new story that I'm telling. It's really the old story, which is why it's called Fall. So anyway, in this story, what as an artist, I seek to really design the entire experience of opening the record, and I had this idea. Again, why do we like records? Why do we go back to records? Well, the same reason the cast flashes you when you go to see Hair, when you went to see Hair. It's to reclaim a sense of that physicality. That's why you have these kind of niche stores that still sell LPs, vinyl records. And so what I'm doing in composing, in designing Fall, this thing called Fall, this album, this symphonic libretto, this musical, this rock operatic symphony, what have you. Because it is a lot of things. It's not just one thing. What I'm seeking to do is to provide you with the real answers that you're really seeking when you go to spend money at the movie theater, or when you go to spend money in the form of tithes at your church. Most churches in America don't have it's blind leading the blind, because we're so far off track. We've gotten so far away from the Bible, and moreover from God. We had God. We had a very strong sense of God when we began this country, and we don't anymore. We don't. We people kind of mock the idea. It's the butt of late night comedy jokes. Guns, grab your guns and Bibles, that sort of thing. I can tell you explicitly what the problem is. But if I could do that, then there would be no need to write a musical. I can tell you very much. It really comes down to the gospel of instant gratification versus the American gospel of Jesus Christ, which is persistence, which is I'd say persistence more than anything else. But the Bible says through faith, we're tested, and it's through that perseverance we develop our faith. I was very leery of the so-called prosperity gospel once upon a time, and again, I want to be very careful not to reduce very complicated ideas to sound bites here, because that's just what you've been trained to look for, and that in and of itself is the problem. But there is virtue in faith. There's virtue in faith, and if nothing else, I care deeply about marriage. If you haven't noticed, in my life testimony, at affirming what marriage is and what marriage is not. The enemy, which if you don't like the S word, if you don't like the word Satan, if you don't like the word devil, you don't say the enemy. The enemy, well, the enemy lurks deep in the heart of humanity if we allow it to, and the enemy wants us to believe that there's an easy way, that there's an easy way out, and that people who are dedicated and people who are persistent. The enemy makes what's good look bad and what's bad look good, and fall, if nothing else, is really a demonstration, a very entertaining. A very entertaining explanation of why, when people give up too easily, especially on marriage, everything fails. Everything else fails. Now, of course, marriage is just one. Marriage is just one component of life, and it's naturally been built up to something that. Well, it's the subject has become the object of obsession because of fake news media influence, and I've spent many hours contemplating. Well, gee, I'm creating a piece of entertainment like no one's ever seen before. So I'm very careful. I'm very careful to make sure that in my work for the ages that will analyze it and will study it, as well as those who just kind of attempt to passively consume it. I'm very careful to thoroughly design it such that the work of entertainment itself is a condemnation of entertainment. It's an irony of ironies, and obviously I can't give away the ending, but it's like nothing else you've ever seen before. It's a true work of art. It's not a slipshod thing that was rushed through pre-production and then production and post-production with the CGI unfinished and adults licking milk out of a bowl or anything silly like that, like Hollywood is cranking out, and I promise myself and you that it will never become that. It's a long-suffered work of art. America hasn't seen a long-suffered work of art in a while, and so I mean, on the one hand, it's great for it's great for me because I know that I know it's better than anything that exists right now. I don't. I happen to be born into a culture that doesn't have any good art whatsoever, and so I don't want to say it's easy because it's not. It's a lot of work, and but I suppose like any good 40s Boy Scout understood. It's the whole point is to leave things better than you found it, and that's what I endeavor to do, rather than turn a quick profit and develop a franchise. And that's by the way what the news does to people every day. Just freaks people out over and over again. Just titillation. That's all it is shock and all that. And make no mistake, this is the most entertaining piece of our time, but it's an indictment of the gospel of ubiquitous electronic entertainment. It's an indictment of really the chief thing which is wrong with our world as compared to the foundational America of ages past, namely, namely the gospel of here we are now, entertain us, the gospel, the false gospel, the false social gospel, the false gospel of emotionalism, which has seeded America's once great churches. It's really an indictment of the fake gospel of instant gratification, which the media implicitly teaches us every day. If that sounds like a mouthful, don't worry about the details, because it's going to be a heck of a show, and it's better than anything on Netflix. It's better than anything on Amazon or Doofus Plus. There, man, I'll tell you, Disney has made some awful movies lately, huh? Well, we're going to make some real art, and I invite you to be a part of the process. Stay connected at americasmansman.com and fallmusical.com, where you can learn a little bit about the beginning. The story has evolved tremendously since even the material at fallmusical.com. However, it'll give you a sense of some of the basic thematic principles. But to be short, the purpose of Fall is to reignite a spirit of rugged individualism upon which that godly kind of Protestant work ethic, that godly ruggedly individualistic self-sufficient model of life, which is the key to us being of any benefit to others, and a very well reasoned indictment of everything that devices just like this one are filling your mind with every single time you press a button, perhaps with the exception of this video. My name is Peter Vidala, and I am the composer and producer of Fall. Check it out. It's going to be a real hoot.